here with me. Did I just say my name's Jonas? I wish I had a cool name like Jonas.
Then we'll switch.
This is Jonas. I'm Tim Sit, and we are here to talk about all things related to health. And this is our introductory podcast. And really, the start of this came from me wanting to reach out to Jonas, who is a chiropractor, and we've been talking about sitting and the whole issue being sedentary for a while now. I don't remember how long we've known each other, Jonas, but I feel like it's been at least over a year. And we're both really inspired to share information that is going to help people that are sitting all day and are suffering from the effects of being sedentary. And that's typically office workers, but that could be a lot of different people. So I just want to start by maybe interviewing you, Jonas, and getting a little bit of your backstory and what you hope to give and share with people that are watching this. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're hoping people can take away from this and your background, and take it from there.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I think what drew me to this and to your work and to you in general is that I believe your cause is very noble. You've transcended the realm of just acting as a one-on-one therapist to provide people across the world with empowering educational wisdom and techniques by which they can improve their lives. And that really resonates well with me. So that's why I'm more than happy to collaborate with you and podcasts and whatever other form.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your experience in terms of your transformation from being that one-on-one practitioner to wanting to expand and doing a more broad-based educational approach?
Yeah, I'm sure there's some parallels with your story, but with mine, I was very happy working as a clinician with patients one-on-one, helping them resolve their issues. But very quickly after, a couple years of practice, I recognized that helping to resolve people's problems was a relatively temporary solution for most people, and teaching them how to solve their own problems by being more active was a much more powerful and sustainable way to contribute to their lives. And so it excited me to want to do more of that type of work. And the more opportunities that I created for myself to educate people rather than treat them, I took them. And so here we are.
Mm-hmm. So maybe we can dig a little deeper into that in terms of how you make that distinction between treatment and that lasts to a certain point and then actually empowering people with education. How do you make that distinction in your work with people, and how do you know that it's having that different effect on people?
That's a really good question. I think the best way to answer that is that it came to me when I would see patients that would come in for whatever their pain or cause or issue. It was obvious to me immediately whether they were expecting me to fix their problem, or if they knew that they were wanting to improve their own situation and just wanted my help doing so and my expertise. That difference is very obvious. And so I recognized that it was much more, not rewarding, it was much more worthwhile to invest my time in people who already understood that they had to take charge of their own situation and help them.
That's really cool. I mean, sorry.
And to help those who didn't feel that way to learn to become that way.
Right. What as the health provider, as the chiropractor, what specifically did you see in those people? What did they say? That indicated to you, yeah, this is a person that's open to learning, not to just be a passive recipient of treatment, but someone that's going to participate in their own health. What gave that away for you?
That's a more difficult question. It's in the undertone of the conversation, the subtleties of the way people phrase what they believe their health issues are. So I think as a clinician and an interviewer and someone interested in helping others in general, I think the key was to learn how to ask good questions. what is your issue? And so when somebody came into my office with mechanical low back pain, and I could see, obviously, after a few questions or tests, or even just watching the way they move, what it is, it was obvious to me. By asking them, even though I might suspect I know exactly what it is, by asking them, what do you believe it is? There was always a surprising range of interesting answers from, people who believed it was bad karma, bad energy, voodoo magic, in some cases, not exaggerating there. That was spells cast on them by shamans, or in other cases, oh, it's because I went and lifted up my grandchild the other day. And then there's others who say, you know what, I sit too much, and I know I have a deconditioned back, and I'm not in great shape, and so I sort of hurt myself picking something up this weekend. So obviously the latter example is somebody who understands, and therefore I don't have to work with them to help them better understand that they're more in charge of their health than they thought.
Yeah. So it's a sense of locus of control. Like, is it something that I'm in control of, some pattern of behavior that I'm doing every day? And a lot of our focus is going to be on the sitting habit, and the belief system that's behind how they understand the pain that they're in that moment. Is it because of some mystical reason, or is it because of something that I'm doing on a daily basis? And what you're saying really resonates with me, because this whole thing with Think Move, and creating this company that helps people sitting all day, started with my own pain. I fell on some ice and had pulled my back, and clearly had a cause and effect story. And when I went to see the chiropractor, she did ask me this question. She's like, well, it really seemed out of the blue at the time, which was how much do you sit? How many hours are you sitting? And I can tell you, just based on what you were saying, when I went to see her, my whole attitude was, you're the doctor, I'm the patient, just fix me, help me get rid of this pain so that I can feel better. So she planted this seed with me that I think you're hinting at. Like, maybe some people start at that point and they're like, oh my God, my back hurts because I sit all the time. But at that moment, when I first started treatment, I was definitely unaware of the impact, and really put all of the power and put all of the responsibility on the doctor. So that the journey of that has been moving away from that. So I guess that was something that, as a chiropractor, you recognized pretty early on.
Yeah, that's a great example. I like your story, and you're an example of somebody who really is thoughtful in analyzing your own perspectives, and so that led to your transformation. And what a powerful transformation from somebody who left the onus of the cure on the doctor to somebody who's now empowering others. That's quite a transformation. Yeah. I found that that's always the first step of a therapeutic relationship, and helping somebody else is really understanding their frame of reference, because without understanding it, you're not going to be able to identify or match what you're trying to share with them, or what you're able to share with them, with their value system, their belief system. There's actually a set of tools, I guess you could call it, that I try to put to use from time to time in the more obscure situations, where a gentleman, Professor Arthur Kleinman, I believe his name is, he developed a set of 8 questions that help people in healthcare identify the value system of a patient, an ill patient, by asking them a series of specifically 8 questions. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but the focus was very, very simple questions, deciphering what they thought the cause of the illness was, why it started, when it started, what aggravates it, what's going to relieve it, what's going to resolve it, those types of questions. And I think as clinicians, especially in North American style of medical and healthcare training, we have this really reductionistic model built in, and an ethnocentric flair to it, that we believe that there's no better way to achieve the answer than to decipher what physiologically is happening. when in fact, even if you're the best diagnostician from a physiological standpoint, if you can't help the patient understand the value of your treatment, it's going to be not effective.
Yeah.
So I've put to use those questions before, and I continue to.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess for you, it was sort of, how do we get outside of the building of the doctor's office or the physiotherapist's office and start to move into where people live every day in their home environment and in their working environment, and leaving the office place, because that's a very limited environment for change, right? It's like once a week for, I don't know, like a 15-minute appointment. And then you have all these lifestyle factors that people need to cope with, right? They're very busy. They're obviously very sedentary. They're not eating well. Maybe they're not drinking enough water. And then somehow miraculously an adjustment or some specific treatment is going to change all of that. I think that's it's when you put it out like that, it's kind of hard to believe that.
Yep. And that's a good point. I think that there's actually, if one was to change one part of their life and lifestyle, I think, and I believe you think, that the best place to do that would be in our workplaces, because we spend the significant majority of our time there. For most of us, for most, 30, 40, 50 hours a week type of jobs, we're spending most of our time there. So if there was one place to change your health, it's not going to the doctor's office more often, because that's still, what, 10, 20, 30 minutes once a week, once a month. That's not very much time for your body to be changing. Instead, you take the biggest chunk of your day and you get more active at work, and that's the powerful, and that's what makes Think Move such a fantastic option for people to use in their workplaces, get them moving.
So maybe we can get into a little bit more of what that would look like, because certainly Think Move has been designed to give people the tools and the resources to do that. But I think, I want this to be a forum to share as much as we can, so that people are equipped and that they feel empowered. And I think it's important to share, one, the literature review that I've done and which the program is based on, and also your clinical experiences and your physiological expertise in terms of why this stuff works. And the difference, one of the important distinctions that I've come to is making this difference between movement and exercise. To me, I think there are very different ways of thinking about just in terms of meeting a specific need. I believe very much now, based on the science that I've seen, that the body needs movement much more and much earlier on than it does exercise. I feel like the whole exercise phenomenon comes from a place of looking a certain way, athletic performance, and kind of returning to, how do we just bring natural movement into our day-to-day lives, such that our, all the systems of our body, whether it's hormonal, blood, oxygen-based, musculoskeletal, and all these different systems, so they're functioning properly. And we know very quite clearly, and maybe you could speak to this in more depth, that when you're not moving, all those systems slow down and they start to atrophy. So maybe you can enlighten us a little bit with what is going on with the body when you're sitting for hours and hours a day.
That's so much stuff to talk about there. That's great. I think that is something, that distinction you make between movement and exercise is a really great one. I think that's one that more people need to explore. And I certainly don't employ that distinction enough. But now that we're talking about it, expand on that a little bit. Like you alluded to, exercise is not, in ways that we currently do it, is not a way to improve overall health. In fact, it does that very little. That might surprise a lot of people. That's because they do exercise and think, oh, I'm healthy, I work out 5 days a week. Well, if you really think about it, 5 days a week, okay, wait, you spend 30, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour maybe if you're good in the gym. That's one of your 24 hours is spent moving, exercising, with a heart rate elevated, all the things happening in your body, which is great. That's better than 0 hours. Right. But the rest of the 23 hours in your day, or 23 and a half hours, are going to be also having a distinct impact on your body depending on what you're doing. And if you're not moving for the majority of those 23 hours, which is true for most people, then your body's constantly getting signals to slow down, to stop operating at a reasonable level.
Mm-hmm.
And so movement and increasing the volume and frequency of movement throughout your day has a much more powerful cumulative effect on your overall health than does intensive bouts of short exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing to grasp.
Yeah, I know. I've looked at some literature where they compare the effects of people that were bedridden and the effects on their muscles in terms of atrophy, the loss of muscle, and the loss of bone density to the same effect of astronauts going out into space and having no gravitational pull on their bodies. So it happens fast. So people were just, lying in bed, and it was a significant amount of atrophy, like 20-30% in just like a day. So this stimulus that you're talking about it's something that we can access and we can do just by even standing up. That's why I think people are starting to employ, stand to sit desks. And I guess for the person that's maybe just starting to think about these issues, maybe we can talk about what simple things they could start to implement that they could do even today. So, what are your top 2 or 3 suggestions for someone that is stuck in the office that they could start to do something and that they would actually feel a benefit?
That's a great question. Let's. I'd recommend for something that would be applicable to everybody, but still relatively vague, is to try to figure out the best way to increase your ability to be in a diversity of positions. Because what we don't want to do is end up being stuck in any one position, whether that's sitting in an office chair or standing or in any particular setup. Because ultimately, this is something that transcends ergonomics, because ergonomics is the study of posture and positions and how movements and activities in our workplace affects our body. But the thing is, if we're spending all our time in even the most ergonomic position, we're still not moving, and that's still having a negative effect on our body. So creating an opportunity to move is, I think, the first biggest step that anybody could take. And practically speaking, it's different for everybody, but a lot of people use, like you mentioned, sit-stand desks as one option, because that at least doubles your opportunity to be in any one position, from sitting to standing. I find that people who open up their space, get rid of their chair, put a sit-stand desk, and then use either a chair temporarily or a stool or a ball, then they're constantly moving, and then that allows them to continue their work without distracting them from their stuff, but also do that. And then, I think
what I would add to that is just the idea of standing for 30 seconds at a time. So if you could take an opportunity, you can continue to read an email, or you can continue to still focus. But even if you just stand up, the research shows that standing up stimulates the heart to pump blood back up to your head because of the gravitational change, and that acts as a stimulus for your whole system, more so than even just walking around, actually, because the heart has to pump and let the blood reach all of the limbs and all the extremities of the body. So I would say a great starting point would just be to stand up as much as you can. So even if it's just for 20-30 seconds, that can be an excellent way to just take a break from sitting and let the body kind of reset, and then you can kind of go back in, and hopefully that starts to plant the seed that, hey, I'm standing up, maybe I can do a stretch, or I can just move my neck around and start to put the body through the different movement possibilities that exist, no matter where you are. There's big movements that you can do, and then there's micro movements that you can do. Even as I'm sitting here, I don't know if people can notice this, I'm adjusting and I'm fidgeting, and those little movements, they all add up. and Jonas is bouncing because he's sitting on a spring bound stool, a really handy gadget. So I would say, in addition to what Jonas is saying, just stand up as much as you can, and even use like a timer or something to help make that a habitual thing.
I like that. I think that's the most powerful thing. I take back what I said earlier. The most powerful thing is what you're alluding to, which is breaking up the periods of inactivity with little micro breaks. I think that's brilliant. In fact, there's something called the Pomodoro method. Have you heard of this, Tim? Yeah, which is,
I've incorporated that principle into the program. So yeah, for sure.
So powerful, so powerful. And whatever way you want to, construct it in your platform, in your way, I think everybody can and should be using this, because it's simply a way to remind yourself with a little dinger, buzzer, timer, or habitual behavioral change to
Do you want to explain
break up the periods of
technique is? Do you want to explain what the Pomodoro technique is?
I don't remember much of the specifics, but I believe it's just a certain amount of time, like 30 minutes or so of work interrupted by a timer that you're then getting up to take a break. So intense work sessions followed by small breaks.
Exactly. It's a productivity tool developed by someone who was Italian, because Pomodoro means tomato, and they have these tomato timers, kitchen timers. I guess that's where it originates from. And this person that invented the technique, I'll have to give him credit, in the notes for this show. But he found that when he had to do a ton of work, it was better to break it down into chunks. So it was 25-minute chunks and then a 5-minute break, and that cycle represented a Pomodoro. And the idea was that you can concentrate so much better when you have these intense bouts, like you were saying, of like concentration. Like, for this next 25 minutes, I am going to focus on catching up on all my emails or clearing my desk or whatever it's going to be. And then I'm going to give myself 5 minutes. And the way that we've incorporated that in the Think Move program is the desktop application actually has 2 timers, a move timer and a work timer, which you can customize. So you can play around with that, and it pops up and lets you know it's time to move or it's time to take a break. And yeah, so that's the essential ingredient, I think, because people want to be productive, but they don't want to be so distracted. So I think having that cyclical way of working makes you much more effective, because really, how long can a person concentrate? I think some of the studies show that the optimal period is the upper limit is like 90 minutes. And so
and that's far into the upper limit. Most people, it's much shorter from what I've read in neuroscience research.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in our technologically screens and everything kind of flashing at us, I think our attention spans are clearly shortening. So yeah.
Nice. I've actually been using this for 6 or 7 years, this Pomodoro method, before I even knew about it, in my own version. And I adapted it just by listening to my body and paying attention to where my threshold of focus is. And what I ended up doing originally as a student, when I had a lot of studying to do, I'd break my time up into 40-minute sessions with 8-minute breaks, 8 minutes and 20 minutes alternating. So first break would be 8 minutes, 40 minutes later it would be 20 minutes, and that's for bathroom and food and stuff to incorporate. But what I also found, interestingly, was that not only was my productivity skyrocketing when I would implement my method, but what I found was when I would spend my 8 minutes or a chunk of that 8 minutes doing any sort of intensive exercise, getting my heart rate up, I would come back feeling like $1,000,000. As soon as I'd calm down again and refocus on my work, when the time was up, it was amazing. It was reset. I was starting fresh. And so that, from my personal experience, has been the best way to be the very most productive version of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's totally the idea. Like, why not make movement the thing that you do on these breaks, right? Because you can't get around the things that it's not like we're hunting anymore. That's not the work. We're not like actively chasing down an animal or plowing the fields.
Yeah.
our work is heady. So it's typing, or it's, thinking about something, or reading something, or talking with somebody. And so to interject little bits of movement, or even bigger things of movement, like, right now, just, standing up and like doing some squats, do that for 30 seconds. And then you just get on with your day. It takes, to do a set of squats when you go to the gym, takes about 30 to 60 seconds to do 12 to 20 repetitions. So just taking the amazing, the wonders, the endorphins of a workout, and just taking that and just spreading it throughout your day, I think that's really the key. And that's, honestly, that's accessible to anyone. But I think there's some obvious barriers to that. And from what I've experienced and learned, the barriers have to do with work culture. It has to do with just, well, you think about it, when you start in school, you're 4 years old, and then you're in school until you're, 23 if you do university, and so you have about 2 decades of school training with sitting, and then you're into the workforce and you're trained even further on that. So I think our task is a tall one, Jonas, because it's multiple decades of training in a specific way of working and living that's so sedentary and habitually sedentary. But the great thing about being human is we can always learn new things. And I'm super inspired to share this journey with you, because I think it's such an important message, and for people to feel like no matter what environment you're in, you really should be free to move your body. You really should be free, because our body encapsulates our mind and our experience of life. And so if that's trapped, I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel like mentally, and in terms of their mental health, they feel trapped as well. It's a nice day, I can't go outside, I can't breathe any fresh air, or we're used to just emailing, and we actually don't interact, and we don't face each other. So socially, there's like a freezing that happens as well. So that's, I think, my big wish or mission, if you want to call it that, is that people feel free in their bodies, free to move, and free to change whatever it is, if it's a physical thing, or even if it's a psychological movement. That's really the hope, and I believe that we can do that. We can really share.
I think you're well on your way. You've found that the barriers, like you said before, you're helping people surmount. The barriers, the big ones, aside from work culture, which is one we can talk about another time, barriers are the lack of understanding or desire. So once somebody has to come to the conclusion that they want to move more on their own, or with the help of others, but for themselves. And the second barrier is the lack of knowledge. Okay, I want to move, but now what? My office won't buy me a new chair or stand desk or an active sitting chair or what. So what do I do? And that's where you come in. And that's where Think Move is really effective, I think, is it offers people both the value of doing it, the value of moving, helps them understand, but then gives them actual practical tools. So it's fantastic, exciting.
Yeah, cool. So is there any final things before we start to wrap up, Jonas? Any final things that you want to share today in terms of movement, in terms of the sedentary culture, anything that's burning at the tip of your tongue?
Yeah, I think we should go to the zoo, open all the gates, and just let all the animals go, and then start chasing them. I think we should live like hunter-gatherers did and just chase animals all day.
I love that. Yeah. There's really, like this chair I'm in, it was like, it is bars. It's made of metal, and it's telling me exactly how I should hold my body. So, and I think to be aware of that we are, our ancestry is based in movement, and to interact in our environment in ways that are not square, I think is so important.
One thing I do want to add on a serious note is a lot of what we talk about when we're talking about movement in the workplace, movement in life, and sedentary and not sedentary, all these issues, is why we should move, because what will happen to us if we don't. And I think that's yeah, we need to hear that on one level, and it's valuable for some people more than others. But I think on the other hand, there's something we don't explore much of that we should, is the exciting part of the incentives of moving. And it's so basic and so powerful. Really appealing to anybody is this idea that if you move more, you're going to have more energy on a daily, hourly basis, weekly basis. You're going to have more energy to do the things that you love. If you love to make money, or you love to spend time with your kids, you love to travel, whatever it is, you're going to have more energy to make more money, to save more time, and do all the things that you want to do. And that's just on an energy level. Then there's cognitive function. You're going to literally be smarter version of yourself, because if you're having a more active lifestyle, you're going to have more blood flow, you're going to have more cognitive function. It's a proven fact. And then you're going to longevity, right? You're going to injure yourself less, and you're going to live longer. So, I could go on, but I mean, the incentives are there. They're plentiful and they're powerful. So it's an exciting prospect to help people move, not just so they don't have to feel bad about not moving, but rather to really improve their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's beautifully put. And just the idea that I think about health as a resource, and we can increase our energy, as you're calling it, and increase that by doing the things that are going to be either restorative or that really stimulate the things that our bodies need, right? It's like, you could think about movement as like a kind of nutrition that our bodies require a certain amount. They need to be fed that nutrition, and when it's not, it starves. And a lot of those signals from the body may go unconscious until the point where there's such a tremendous amount of pain that they need to see you. So, Jonas, I'm wondering if I could show you the new introductory Think Move video, and maybe that might be a fun way to end, because I don't think you've had a chance to see it yet.
I haven't, and I'd love to.
Okay, so I'm going to click this handy dandy screen share and see what happens.
If you sit for long periods, you've probably experienced the back pain, fatigue, and possible weight gain that comes with sitting for long periods of time. Research is connecting sitting with long-term illnesses like cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. And exercise alone doesn't offset this sedentary time. The science is showing that brief periodic breaks throughout the day from this sitting can be an effective way to address sitting time. Hi, my name's Tim Sit. That's right, sit. And even though my last name is a problem, I've created a solution that's going to help get you moving and healthy. When we sit for hours and hours a day, we are training ourselves to be unresponsive to the body's needs. Think Move is an online program and platform that'll show you how to listen to your body and respond so that you enhance your health, happiness, and energy. When you sign up for the Think Move program, you get access to a members-only website where I'll guide you along your personal moving journey. You'll learn the skills and the exercises that'll help make you feel calmer and stronger and more productive. You can sign up as an individual, a team, or an entire company. The benefits of being part of a team of movers is extremely important. Move is contagious. When one person moves, others are reminded to move and feel free to give themselves permission to move. The movement breaks range between 30 seconds to 2 minutes, much shorter than a smoke break, but without the carcinogens. Even if you sign up as an individual, you'll have the option to join a virtual group of Think Movers where you can be supported and cheer others on. You'd begin with the 6-week introductory course, which will teach you how to move throughout the day. And this will set the foundation to achieve various goals, including weight loss, increasing energy, focus, and team building. You'll learn our unique Think Move system called Tim. I thought since my last name was a problem, I should use my first name to be the solution. In each of the weekly videos, I'll coach you through the triggers, inputs, and moves. Triggers are the specific strategies that will get you moving naturally throughout your day. The I in Tim stands for input, which will be the strategy you use to track all of your moves so you can see your progress. M stands for move, which is all the various movements that you'll learn to do throughout your day. The Tim system are all the tools that add up to you becoming fully aware and connected to your body throughout the day, so you feel energized, focused, and strong in all that you do. The practice of Tim is essentially the practice of listening to the whole body, picking up all of that information. Have you ever noticed how stiff you feel, but usually only from the moment you begin to move after sitting for a long time? Body awareness is the core skill that you'll develop through the MOVE program. It paves the way for you to be able to get the most out of the other categories of flexibility, strength, cardio, and balance. In addition to the physical benefits, each of the 5 categories provides psychological benefits such as energy, calmness, strength, and fun, which will increase the quality of your work and the cohesion of your team. All of the moves can be done from your chair or by your desk, requiring no equipment and very little space. The I in the TIM system means inputting your moves into the Think Move application. This is really important for accountability, support, and measuring engagement. This is the area of the website that acts as an interactive online coaching platform. It'll help you track your moves as well as your progress for the day. You can also look at your stats for the day, week, month, and lifetime. Let's check in with Matt now and see how all of this works. Based on one of the weekly lessons, Matt has decided that whenever he yawns and cranes his neck, this is a trigger to remind him that he's tired and he needs to take a move break. He takes a moment to consult the app to decide what kind of move he wants to do. He can decide between the 5 categories of moves. In this moment, he'd really like to do something that'll boost his energy. He clicks on his desk jogging and he hits the move button. The timer, which is customizable, begins. The app counts every move once the timer runs its course. This way, the inputting part of the TIM system happens seamlessly. An advanced function of the app helps users address long periods of sitting, for example, writing a report with a tight deadline. Knowing that he has to get this report done by the end of the day, he can use the stringing function, which is a cyclical timer that combines the move timer with the work timer. This will help him get into a rhythm of work and movement. He simply pre-selects the length of time he wants for his work period and his move break. So once a move break is completed, the work timer begins. This will help the user get into a cycle of regular movement breaks. The timers are completely customizable. At any time during a move break or a work cycle, the user can add more time or subtract time by pressing the plus or the minus buttons. The stringing function ensures that Matt is moving frequently and keeping his energy high so he can complete his work. The 6-week Think Move program is an essential guide to helping you establish the moving habit at the workplace. It effectively addresses the sedentary problem while also enhancing the quality of your work by giving you more energy, focus, and productivity. What makes the Think Move program really unique is it focuses on creating body awareness, and it uses movement throughout the day to counteract all the effects of sitting. It's not just about wearing another piece of technology on your wrist or listening to the rings and dings of an app. Instead, it's really about learning how to listen to your own body and the signals that come from your own body. The program's been designed specifically for people that sit for hours and hours a day. After you've completed the 6-week introductory course, you'll be able to access a series of other programs, including healthy weight loss, healthy posture, energy boosting, calming the mind, healthy nutrition, and goodbye aches and pain. Each program lasts 48 weeks and continues to build on the moving habit that you establish in the first introductory 6-week course. The 6-week Think Move program typically costs $300 to do in person when we work with companies. We're now able to offer this program plus the app, plus all the additional programs like weight loss, posture improvement, and back pain reduction for a low monthly subscription fee. So don't just sit there. Think Move.
All right.
What a great video. And a brilliant program.
Cool. And maybe that's a good place to end, Jonas, and we can talk next time. But thanks for joining me, and it was great speaking with you and jamming on this topic of how to be healthy throughout your day.
Thanks for having me. This was great.
Okay.
Talk soon.